3 years ago, I walked away from this E38 BMW 740 and I walked away from YouTube, and I wasn't sure that I would ever come back. I lost 3 really close family members, including my mum. My girlfriend's dad ended up in a coma for 47 days, and I watched the roof get torn off one of our businesses, causing over £200,000 of damage. I just didn't have the energy for any of these projects, but I do now. And I've got 2 goals: to fix as many of these cars as I can, and to get this channel to 100,000 subscribers. I can only do both of those with your help. This E38 used to run and drive, but time has taken its toll. Snap springs, rusty shocks, collapsed jacking points, and a cascade of oil and power steering leaks. It's just a total disaster, and I haven't even started digging yet. The snap springs and flat tyres have got this 7 Series actually looking like it's slammed on air ride. Free modification, courtesy of years of my neglect. Yeah, probably should have given myself more space, but I haven't. And people are always asking me how to save weight on their race cars. Carbon fibre bonnets, stripped interiors. No mate, just run your tyres down until the structural rebar's completely exposed. Look at that craftsmanship. I've scrubbed at least 3 kilos of useless rubber off each corner. Sure, it might drive like it's on ice skates and sound like a washing machine full of spanners, but the weight savings are mint. So this spring is, yeah, pretty bad, I would say. Pretty bad. That's not good. Everything else is pretty bad, so these shockers don't look in great condition. Bushers, they're pretty bad. Unfortunately, sitting around for a few years with all of that northeast salt on the roads covered all over these suspension arms and bushers has done this car absolutely no favours whatsoever. We're going to have to replace a lot of these arms and try and clean this up. There's also a lot of oil down here. And look at the absolute state of the underside. There's so many mystery fluids dripping off this frame right now. Looks like the aftermath of a record-breaking spring break tour. If you know, you know. This car needs an intervention, not a mechanic. Even within the first few minutes of looking at this car properly, I'm getting the sinking feeling that putting this back on the road is going to be a bigger job than I first anticipated. I've not yet spotted anything that doesn't need some kind of attention. I just need to hope that I don't find an even bigger problem somewhere else on this car. And right about now, I did find another problem, and quite a big one. But I'll show you that a little bit later in the video. So this jacking point doesn't appear to be as bad, but there is corrosion there. However, this is a bit of an indicator that something's going on inside, where it looks like we've got the holy trinity of automotive leaks with power steering fluid, oil, and I think that there's some coolant caked around this as well. A lot of people pay extra for underside treatments, but this E38 has decided to self-protect the whole chassis. And if you're wondering what that is, that's a belt of rubber that was literally peeled off the tyre by that snapped spring. But right now we need to get on with the suspension teardown. And as you can see, the first problem is dealing with a lot of rust. So all of these arms, all of these springs, shocks are all just rusted to hell. We need to soak these with penetrating fluid before we even attempt to remove anything. Why, we've got a very, very snapped spring here. Got the big gun, and it's a good job that I've got the big gun out as well, because everything is so rusty and seized in here that I have a feeling the blowtorch and possibly my old friend the angle grinder will be coming out to play. And I should probably apologise for the high-vis jacket. It's the only thing I had to hand, even if it does make me look like Big Bird from Sesame Street. So we've got lots of fluid all over the place, which we're going to have to try and trace and figure out where the hell that's coming from. And really just replace pretty much everything. I think while we're here, try and refurbish these hubs a little bit and try and make them look better. Got to decide what we're going to do about this suspension. And that's the first decision to make. Do we go with an OEM shock and spring, or do we slam it on the deck with a set of coilovers? Plus, if we are refurbishing these hubs, when we take these arch liners out, if we find any rust behind there at all, we're going to have to grind that back, treat it, and probably reseal and maybe even repaint the arches entirely. There's power steering fluid in here, which I didn't really expect. I don't know if it's actually high enough. I think it probably is. It's close. But I thought it was power steering fluid that was leaking. Pass me that hammer, Zach. And so far, almost every nut and bolt is seized or rusted. Stripping down this front suspension is definitely going to take me longer than I anticipated. Because we have so many cars to try to put back on the road as part of this series, we're going to have to reuse these brake discs and save some money. They look bad, but it's mainly surface rust. The caliper carriers and the calipers will need stripping back, sandblasting, treating and painting though. But before we spend any money, we need to get this thing in bits. Caliper carrier to the knee, that felt nice. Not really, didn't feel that great to be honest, unsurprisingly. Now this may be the first, but definitely not the last minor accident you'll see in this video. And this caliper carrier looks like it's been in the sea. But when it comes to rust, there's nothing that the angle grinder won't solve. But whilst the angle grinder fixes one problem, we spot another one. Oh, we're getting a little bit of rust on this arch as well. Look at that, wow, I didn't know that. I had the wings and the bonnet painted about 3 or 4 years ago, so this shouldn't be happening, but it's definitely there, and it's making me concerned for what else might be on that inner arch. Yeah, well, that solved the problem, didn't it? That solved the problem, didn't it? Angle grinder. Best tool in the world. It's the best tool in the world. I'm pretty excited to be honest, can't wait to have this back on the road. I've really missed it. It's always been one of my absolute favourite vehicles, and actually I feel a little bit ashamed that I've let it get into this kind of condition. So we went full ghetto and just cut this all off. It was just easier and faster. So everything's out now on this side, which is good. The strut is off, everything's off. Obviously got to order new replacement arms for this. And as you can see, this shock absorber has to be replaced too. It's rusty and it's leaking. The hub I'm going to clean up, sandblast, and we're going to paint that with a 2K epoxy. Back to this thing where it's so easy to just deep dive into this and keep going and strip everything off, and as tempting as that is, I don't really want to do that right now because we've got so many cars to try to get back on the road. But this is one of my favourites. I brought my son home from the hospital in this car something like 4.5 years ago, and it's the last time it was, you know, on the road. So I want to basically get it working right and make sure that it's in a decent state for him when he eventually is old enough to drive it. Please tell me where to stop. Please tell me where to stop. Do not let me start going nuts on this and taking the engine out and going crazy. I don't want to do that right now. But let's at least get this suspension right. Let's get it driving right. I need to keep stripping this. So I'm going to have to try and get all of these plastics off here because I need to get to this jacking point, which is absolutely knackered. Now this is a problem that I mentioned that I'd found before. Now this could be a relatively easy weld and fix, or that rust could penetrate really deep and it could be disastrous. I think we've got a couple under here. Let's try and get those. I'll say this wheel arch lining is in quite tight, and I'm getting 27 years of grime in my Diet Coke. Oh. Let's see what we've got behind here. So, actually, it's pretty good, all things considered. This is not bad at all. A little bit of surface rust up there, but the rest of it's really clean. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that, even down here. So I can't see how far that corrosion's coming, but This is all reasonable, but we can get all this cleaned up now. Get the rest of these arms obviously taken out here that I cut off the other day. Get this sorted out and cleaned up, and we can clean all this gunk away and start to make a bit of progress. I'm pretty excited right now, actually. I'm pretty excited. This is pretty good stuff. So the corrosion's not as bad as I anticipated. It's definitely not come all the way to the front of the car, which is really positive. So hopefully it's just a jacking point we've got to shore up, and we'll probably strengthen those a little bit as well while we're in there. And getting this arch cleaned up is probably going to be the priority right now. On these sort of projects, it feels like you're constantly cleaning, but no matter how much you clean and take away layers of grime and dirt, there's just another layer underneath you've got to do. But anyway, let's go and dismantle the other side. Usually where I drop a wheel on my leg, like that. Ah! Good job I've got fat legs. Oh, well, let's have a little look. Ooh, not very sexy at the moment. Fair to say we're going to need some new tyres on this. Ooh, that's not good. Look at that. That is not good. Oh, get this ABS connector disconnected, and then we can drop this strut out and try and work out if we can get that centre arm out, which I've not got the idler arm off yet. I need to work out how to get that arm off. I'm starting to think I've got a bit of an angle grinder problem. Maybe I should join AGA, Angle Grinders Anonymous. So we're making some good progress with getting this disassembled. So we've cut this off here, this tie rod end off, because we're going to replace all of that centre rod and these tie rod ends. We've taken off the drop link around the back, and yeah, this arm is now loose. I've got 3 of these bolts 30mm on this to take off to drop this strut right down and then separate it from the hub. The suspension arms are out, but the deeper I dig into this car, the more I realise I might be completely out of my depth. I've got a lot of the suspension components already partially stripped off, and I'm taking a look underneath some of the fluid leaks and also trying to figure out what else we need to do to make this right. We've got some jacking point issues, which I think I might have already shown you in this video. If I haven't, I'll show you now. These are pretty bad. Basically, on the jacking point, in fact, I'll tell you what, let's just roll into this. I don't know if you can see. Here, yes, as you can see, it's not good because the jacking point has collapsed. This little bit on the leading edge here is a bit of a concern. I don't know if you can see this here. But we're going to have to see how far that goes in. This passenger side jacking point, or more accurately what's left of it, has completely collapsed, and right now we don't know how far or deep that goes. Typical BMW mystery box. But obviously at this age, German steel starts to turn into flaky pastry on UK roads, so we don't know whether or not this is going to be a quick patch, or are we going to be welding the whole side of the car back together. Once we've got the rest of the suspension off, this idler arm, anti-roll bar and the centre arm, then we can get this cleaned up using some Surfex HD, some jizzer, giving it a really good scrub, and we can try and figure out where some of these leaks are coming from. Bottom one out, no problem, but these top ones, you can't really get onto. That one's actually not in bad shape, but the other side is just absolute dog. May have chewed that up a little bit. Great. Absolutely great. It goes into the subframe as well, so need to be really careful not to absolutely damage that or break it. I just need to try and get this nut off, and then we can decide what's happening with this subframe. Do we treat it in situ for now, get the wire wheel on it and actually just clean it up as much as we possibly can and paint it, treat it and paint it, and it'll last a while if we do that, to be honest. It just won't look perfect, but does that really matter right now? As I say, we've got to decide how far we go with this. Need to check a lot of the other engine stuff whilst we're on with this job, but I do want to tidy up some of these pans as well. This one's not so bad, but the gearbox is pretty bad, so we need to get that off, cleaned up, wire wheeled, treated, painted, and see where we've got these leaks. There's a lot of fluid over there. Don't know if you can see. Just zoom right in. Yeah, a lot of fluid around there. What I'm working on right now is the centre rod assembly, which is this, and the idler arm. So I need to get that centre rod assembly taken out, which means I've got to get this idler arm off as well. I've undone the bracket on the undone the arm on the other side, sorry, on the anti-roll bar. And I want to clean up that anti-roll bar bracket. I want to paint the anti-roll bar, and I also want to replace the nuts and also the bushers. So we've got quite a bit to get on with this morning, so I guess we'd better kind of crack on with it, otherwise we're not going to get done. So this is the idler arm right here, and this is the centre rod where the tie rods go onto. So as you can see, got that side out. Obviously this is really caked up with crap around here, and this subframe needs a bit of attention. But first of all, let's get this out. It looks like it's probably a 16mm. Oh, it's a 16mm. And that looks like it might be a little hex or something on this end, but we're going to soon find out if that actually needs to be locked off. God, that's on tight. Oh, Jesus. God, that's tight. Even at 24 stone, this rust is giving me the fight of my life. You can see it in my face. That's the nightmare with these old project cars. Sometimes brute force just isn't enough to get these things off. In life, sometimes you just need a bigger pry bar, and that's what we're going to try now. The big pry bar. Sorry for all the messages. Just lonely. Thinking about the muscly arm paperboy. Clearly this rust is sending me slowly delirious with the Family Guy references. I'm pretty angry with this. There she goes. There she goes. There she goes. And she's finally off, and we can hopefully get that assembly out now. And that is the centre rod out, with the idler arm still attached, and some very cut off tie rod ends and these brackets on here. So we're going to replace this, and I think I'm going to replace all of it. It was difficult to spot one of these for a right hand drive car in parts, so we're going to put this to one side and we'll use this to measure out approximately the track rod ends, the tie rod ends when we do that. And now hopefully I can get a bit better access to that nut there on the anti-roll bar bracket to get that off, and we can get the anti-roll bar out, and then yeah, we're making some progress. Once we've got all that out, we can start to get this cleaned up. I think the next step is then to decide whether or not we're going to put the engine on a support or a hoist and actually take that subframe off. I really wanted to avoid doing it, but now I'm looking at it, it's going to be so much better if I can. It's without a shadow of a doubt a better job to get this subframe off so that I can fully inspect it, make sure that everything is really good to go on it. I can clean it up and protect it properly with 2K paint, rust treat it to make sure it lasts another 10, 15, 20 years. But on top of that, aesthetically, it's going to look way, way better too. Looks like we've got a rocket cover leak as well, but I think if you see here, this is all pretty caked up, which is telling you that this is probably coming from that power steering fluid. However, the power steering fluid doesn't seem to be going down massively. I think I'm going to replace that with a new one, and potentially those pipes. Yeah, they are not good. Bit of a leak from the rocket cover somewhere, probably on both sides to be fair, and there was a misfire with this, which was really annoying. So I need to try and solve that misfire. I'm going to do these rocket cover gaskets at the same time and see where we are. Try and clean these heads up, maybe get the rocket covers, shall I say, get these cleaned up and maybe refinished so they look good. Get this engine bay a little bit fresher. So this is a bit that I've been dreading the most, and that's because I've got to clean the underside of this car, and it's got 28 years and 7 months of grime and crap all over it. To do that, we're going to use some of this, which is Built Hammer Surfex HD, and we're going to put this on neat on the worst bits. Got the wheel arch off on the other side, suspension mostly off, subframe still on. Got this wheel arch liner that I want to get out, but I'm going to actually scrub it first on the car and then I'll remove it, and then we're going to go through all of the arches because I want to paint those. I did say earlier that this cleaning game would never end, and that wasn't a joke. It's exactly what I meant. I've been through these arches quite a few times, but I'm back in them again. And then when I've done that, I've got to get flat on my back in that wet dirt, basically suffocating in 27 years of road grime to clean the underside of the engine. With all of those nooks and blind crannies, it's pretty much impossible trying to get into all those places. Now, I have cleaned this side up a little bit already because all of this was caked, but I'm going to clean it again just to be extra clean. And I've got this, which is the Built Hamber Surfex HD, and you can use this basically 1-to-1 for stuff like this, or you can water it down a little bit, 5-to-1 if it's not quite as dirty but still pretty dirty. Go right down to 50-to-1 for some bits. So let's get some compaction going on. Plenty of practice for that right arm, and we'll get this sprayed on and agitated with the old brush. Now, you don't really want to let this Built Hamber dwell too long, particularly on a sunny day like today, so we're going to give this possibly 5 minutes just to eat away at some of this grime and nonsense, and then we're going to agitate it a little bit again, then we're going to rinse it off with a pressure washer and see if we can get these final few bits off. This car's actually pretty solid under the arches, which is great. Still got some welding to do, as we already know, but this is pretty good. I'm pretty pleased with this so far. Cleaning wheel arches isn't always the most interesting thing to watch, but I've left this in because I want to show you just how many times you've got to go through this process when you're really trying to degrease and get all of this grime out of these wheel arches. So this engine is dirty up top. We've got this power steering leak that we know about already because I'm going to replace that reservoir. However, we've got some leaks elsewhere as well, and if I don't clean this from the top down before I actually clean the underside, I'm going to be chasing my tail and chasing oil forever. So I'm going to try and spray this up, agitate it, and get the top end as clean as I possibly can. Try and spray down into the block, watching the alternator, etc. In an ideal world, all of this would get hit with the ice blaster straight away. A friend of mine actually has one too, but the compressors needed to run those things are pretty huge, and unfortunately it's just not practical to get one out here, and this just doesn't have the budget to get one of the mobile companies to come out and do that. So we're back to the old-fashioned and practical way of working, which is just getting stuck in, and I think a lot of restorations have to be this way. It's just time, patience, and plenty of good old-fashioned elbow grease. Given the top of this a rinse down, it's a quick rinse to be fair, I'm going to try and get underneath and try and see where we are. Obviously this is absolutely soaking, so this is going to be a very unpleasant experience lying in some dirty oily water. I need to not get this all over my eyes for obvious reasons. Yeah, good luck with that. I should really do a section at a time. Thinking about it, this is still blowing everywhere. We'll do the subframe and bits around here. Safety is important. Remember not to chemically clean your eyeballs. I can probably do a 60-70% job with it on, but I think it's just going to niggle me knowing that I've not done everything possible to restore the subframe. And being honest, like even this process here, just cleaning it would be so much easier with it off the car, but I have to jack on this sump pan and on the gearbox to just hold the engine up. At this stage, you can tell by the way I'm speaking that if I do leave that subframe in, it's probably going to niggle me a lot. Really should have safety glasses on for this, and maybe, you know, don't do this at home. It's because I'm already a half-dead Yorkshire housing estate lad, so probably can't really do much more damage to my health than I do with single malt whiskey and lots of takeaway food. I should really be quite happy right now. It's been a long time since I've got to service a 29-year-old undercarriage as thoroughly as this. At first my eyes were just irritated from the spray, which wasn't so bad, and I didn't think anything too bad of it. But then I got a couple of splashbacks from the power of the jet wash, and 30 minutes later my vision had gone really milky and cloudy, and I thought I'd better go to the hospital, where they gave me 2 bags of saline through each eyeball. Just remember, I do these stupid things so you don't have to. So this is my current situation, and yeah, I'm getting a lot of stuff flying in my face, in my eyes, which is not the best, to be fair. Really don't do this at home. Don't wear no safety glasses, it's ridiculously stupid. I think we've got a lot of the grime and a lot of the oil and a lot of the power steering fluid away, so if we go under the car, I don't know if you can actually see much under there, but it's a lot better than it was. We've got a slightly cleaner engine and slightly cleaner arches, so I'm pleased with what we've done in basically just over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. This is way better than it was. Well, it's pretty safe to say I'm absolutely and utterly drenched, but this car is cleaner than it was, and it's still not clean enough. And now that the old girl's cleaned up a bit, I think it means that subframe coming out is, yeah, a lot more likely. Onto this subframe, and I'm going to try and get a lot of this rust off actually while this subframe's here. As much of this loose flaky rust off as we can. Try and figure out what else we're going to do. I'm going to take a look at the gearbox pan. I've got 2 things. I've got this, which is a brass wire wheel, which is a little bit softer than steel, so this is alright to use on aluminium. I've also got a knotted wheel, which is on the grinder, which is for those areas that are a little bit more serious. Some of this rust is coming off. Structurally, it's actually pretty sound. The leaking power steering has probably helped, and leaking oil, to keep some of this in reasonably good condition, and structurally it's pretty solid as a rock. Aesthetically, yeah, it's not great. 30 seconds under this car and literally every single tyre component is speaking to me, and they're all saying the same thing: replace me, powder coat me. While you're in there, you might as well do this. And that is how mission creep starts again. We've already talked about it, but before I've even picked up any kind of tool, my brain's on fire. I've got to get that under control right now and stop thinking about everything that could be done and start focusing on doing something today. I've got to beat that procrastination every single time. I'm just going to start cleaning it up as much as I possibly can again, get some momentum, actually start making some progress. If I don't, then this project is definitely going to stall. I start cleaning up the gearbox sump because it's still really rusty, and I'm just doing as much as I can whilst it's on the car. I want to basically not leave this off the car for very long, just for protection, so I'm going to get as clean as I possibly can here. I've started cleaning up the gearbox as well, and this is coming up actually alright. I'm just using a brass wheel, there we go, somewhere on this, and that's actually starting to look a little bit better. Let's go wide angle, there we go, so you can see a bit more. I think that once this subframe is out, I'll be able to get totally into this. I've started to clean up these pipes as well. These are the hard power steering pipes. Not sure what I'm going to do with these. Don't know whether I'm going to paint them black to protect them, or whether or not I'm going to put some clear coat on them and leave them like this. I probably need a little bit of a Scotch Brite as well. There's some pitting in them, but I'm not fussed. Like I say, I'm not going full show car. Start to clean up some of the other areas as well. So we are making a little bit of progress. But really I've still got some disassembly to do. I'm not really doing this in the right order, but I've got to work with how I've got, the amount of time that I've got, and where the car is, which is on the floor. And as you can see, there's not a lot of space under here, and as a fat guy, that doesn't necessarily make my life any easier. So I'm trying to figure out how to best support this E38 4.4 V8, and I've got this Sealy ES300 engine support, which is literally just wide enough. In fact, it's not really quite wide enough. Okay, the game's up, the subframe's coming out, and that's 1580mm, I think, from side to side. I could do with a bigger one, and I might have to invest in one of those. And there's not a lot of clearance space here. I don't know if you can really see, but I've got a D-shackle attached in onto the engine eye and a 1-ton lifting strap, and that's how basically I've got this set up right now, which is, yeah, it's not entirely ideal. I need to really try and find a way to secure something from the back of the engine to stop it tilting and rocking. So I'm going to try and have a little look and see what's sturdy enough at the back of the... Yeah, probably somewhere where the gearbox connects and the bell housing maybe. Might be a bracket or something that is strong enough, like the rear bolts or something. And I think it's probably still worth jacking the gearbox from underneath before I take this subframe off. I mean, it's a big heavy engine. This is rated to 300 kilos. And the engine's probably 250. Fortunately, the following morning was sunny, so I was able to play around with the engine support to get a better position. I solved the problem of the gearbox and the engine tilting by putting the 1.25 ton jack underneath with a block of wood and pushing the gearbox and the back of the engine up. I can leave that in situ whilst I figure out what I need to take off the subframe to be able to get it out. Things like the steering box. Now, I agree it's probably not the best way, but it's the best way I've been able to do it with what I've got here. Let me show you from underneath. And whilst I wait for Big Baz to come and give me a hand taking the subframe out, I decided to jump onto the hubs and start disassembling those. As you can see, it's not in the best of condition, so we've got a bit of work to do to get this done, but we've got to get these arms off that I basically just left on, so I need to smash the hell out of these, get these off, and then we've got to look at what we're going to do to tidy all of this up, treat it. To get all the rust off, we're going to use some Hydrate 80 again and make it cosmetically a lot better than it currently is now. Not perfect, because it's a hub and it's very easy to get carried away. You can't use high build primer on things like this. You can't make them smooth. So just going to make this look as nice as we can. Right now I'm wire brushing these E38 hubs and knocking off as much of the heavy rust as I can, and then I'm going to sandblast them in the next episode. I'm trying to get them back to pretty much bare metal. Got the two arms out of here now, and or the remnants of those arms anyway. And just have to get this ABS sensor out, and we can start to clean this up. And I've got to decide whether or not I'm going to vapor blast these, or whether or not we're going to try and clean them up with the knotted wheel on the angle grinder. Obviously it's a little bit bad, but you can get these really cheap. They're about 5-6 quid for one of these, so I'm going to replace it. There is the 46mm hub nut. Just going to take off the hub nut to try and get all of these fully apart. So I'm going to fully disassemble these hubs. I'm going to take the dust shields off, the ABS sensors out, and I'm going to remove the wheel bearings, and then we're going to clean them up as thoroughly as we possibly can before we paint them. But now, back to the subframe. I'm going to try and be more safe today, because last week when I was cleaning the underside of this, I did spray a load of alkaline cleaner into my eye. I had to go to the walking centre, which wasn't great. Health and safety is something that doesn't really exist around here. We need to get this subframe off before we do anything else, and then I can try and paint everything in one go. Obviously got the gearbox sump to take off and the engine sump to take off, so there's quite a bit to do today. It's going to be a busy day to try and get as much done. We're already into the afternoon. I've been cleaning up the hubs this morning and trying to get those ready for blasting. So the first port of call is to try and get this subframe off. So everything's loaded under there and we're ready to go. And you can see just from this video here just how rusty it is. I really have made the right choice getting this free from the chassis, but first I've got to figure out exactly what else needs to come off before I can get the frame itself down, what else I need to support, and also I've got things like steering linkages and wiring and other bits that I really need to be careful with. I don't want to break anything and end up having to pay for it. Once all of that's cleared, I think there's 4 main bolts just to drop the whole assembly down, but we've basically got nearly 30 years worth of rust. We've kind of welded lots of things together, dirt everywhere, and despite the fact I've cleaned it, we're going to be walking into a minefield, and I guess one snap ball and we're in trouble.
What can you say, what's keeping out of this?
Well, we've still got this bolt in here.
Yeah.
And we've got this rear bolt in. So there's 2.
Which rear bolt? Oh, that one.
Yeah. So we've got the 2 connections there. And then I don't know what you've got. I mean, it's moving quite a bit. It's still on this engine.
Dropping down though, is it?
It's still on this engine mount here.
Well, it's sort of on this one.
So we've just got a few more bits to get out before we can actually take this subframe out and finally get it out of the car. But this feels like it's tilted though.
Yeah, it's tilted back.
Yeah.
The back end's come down.
We realised that we had to get something to support the steering box and just move a few things around to get to the point where we could drop this. Go on, do it again. Yeah.
We're going to have to get something under there and push that steering box up, see if it moves.
We are taking our time here, and that's because budget is so tight. Anything that I break on this car that I have to replace is money that's going to come away from one of the other projects that we're working on. But more than that, I'm also taking a look at all of the other parts and components, and I'm trying to mentally process what I'm going to replace, what I'm going to restore, and quite honestly, what I'm going to leave alone and walk away from for now. And the costs are already adding up, because whilst I'm in here, it would be foolish not to replace these engine mounts, as an example. And of course we need some new bolts, it'd be great to get those zinc plated too, and there's quite a few other bits that we should probably replace while we're in here.
Well, you just spin that with a jack round and jack this a little bit, see if it goes up. If it does, we'll have to put something around it to pull it up somehow.
Try and just jack the box up.
Yeah.
Basically, I've just looped it around the taper joint.
Huh?
I've looped it around the idler arm taper joint. Let's get on mechanic in. Nearly out though. Finally, we are almost at the stage where we can get this subframe out of this E38. It's been a few incredibly stubborn rusty bolts and connections that we needed to fight our way through to get here. Honestly, at one point I wasn't sure if we were turning sockets or basically making a blood sacrifice to the BMW gods. But basically, we've been trying our best not to damage anything and cleaning bits up along the way. And hopefully it goes back together a little bit nicer than it came apart. Just savour that beautiful metallic clatter of a heavy subframe smashing against the concrete. Easily the best sound that I've heard in days, and that noise right there means that this stubborn piece of German over-engineering is finally out. Hours of fighting, seized bolts and questioning my life choices completely erased by one glorious heavy thud. It's car restorer's heaven, it's cheaper than therapy, and it's probably the ultimate middle finger to nearly 30 years of BMW rust. And with that subframe out, we can now properly inspect the gearbox and engine, and in the next episode I'm going to be taking all of those suspension components, refinishing them, rust treating them, and making them look absolutely mint. If you've not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.